Hello and welcome to First Contact, the world's first podcast where we openly discuss all things relating to humanity's preparation for open contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. I'm your host, Isha Patel. If you are loving this content, please be sure to join us in the First Contact Facebook community and let us know what you think. Let's dive into another exciting episode of First Contact. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very special episode of First Contact. Today, we have on the show Reverend Honi Borden. Now, this is a very special interview, I think, for both of us, because we've known each other for a number of years in many ways, shapes, and forms. We've met in person from across the globe and all sorts of other wonderful synchronicities. And Reverend Honi's story is so unique in the sense that she, as per the theme of the show, she has a connection with galactic beings, but the way that she came into that was through a near-death experience, which I will absolutely let her share all the details of. But Honi, thank you so much and welcome to this show. It's an absolute pleasure and honor to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much, Isha. Thank you so very much to you, to your audience, and this opportunity that this voice gets to be shared for those who are ready to heart it.
Yes, beautiful. So I would love for you to share, just to start with, the story. Your story is very unique. So let's take our audience right back to where it first began, just as you were having that near-death experience, and tell us about what led to it and then also what happened during the experience for you.
Sure. So just for clarification purposes, my galactic connection started when I was very young, at the age of 4. So the galactics have been around for quite a while, and this part took it to another level. So I've been a contactee all my life. I've had many UFO experiences with Syrian Arcturian beings, like from very early on. Many different spaceship experiences, the UFOs and what have you. But this was a different experience. So in 2012, January 8th, 2012, I did experience my heart stopping and for me crossing over. Just to back up a little bit, I was very sick and my physical organs were shutting down, and I had hit this from a whole lot of people. Most people, especially those around me, did not know I was hiding from my mother and my brother. Particularly my husband knew, my children at that time, they were very young, but they knew. I had hidden it from them because I just did not want, I didn't want anybody to know. And I knew I was dying, and I was working with a naturopath doctor, and things weren't looking good at all. And it was a rare illness that had attacked my thyroid, and everything was shutting down, and I'd lost a lot of weight, and just continuous fever, a lot of body pain, and I really wanted to go. I did want to leave. I felt like I just couldn't carry it was more the pain that I was experiencing for the planet. I couldn't take it anymore, and I was ready to leave. So that was the background, what was happening. So on January 8th, 2012, my heart did stop. And just to share with you where I was, it's very unusual because I had gone to a massage therapist, somebody that did not know me, and most of my friends are healers. I wanted to make sure nobody knew. I just had a lot of pain. Everything was swollen here. I just needed somebody to touch, and especially craniosacral, so I could my system can calm down. I wasn't getting any sleep anymore, and just preparing for my departure. And I have to say, during this time, I was at the height of my career as a public speaker and paid speaker. I was invited to speak in India as one of the 24 women at Sri Ravi Shankar's ashram. And I mean, so much was happening along the way, but there was this hidden part of my life that nobody knew about. So so that day, it was in the evening, about 7:30 almost p.m., a little earlier. I had gone, and there was a gentleman that would do craniosacral, and I said, I went to have a session, so I was on the treatment table, and I told him that I was very ill. He said, no problem. I said, I just don't really need anything other than it's just painful. Can you just handle the pain? So he was very respectful of that. And so while I was then on the treatment table, that's where my heart stopped, and I crossed over. So what happened in that was, I'll tell you what happened to the massage therapist as well, because that was a really difficult experience for this gentleman. But what a soul agreement him and I had to experience this 4-minute journey together. So what took place was, as my body was laying there, my spirit came out of my body, and I moved out of the room, and I was above the room. So right away, there was this incredible lightness, this exhilarating joy all in my spirit body. It was still this form, yet it was the spirit body. But it was so light and luminous and joyous. And I looked down, so there was my body laying there, but like complete lifeless, and the massage therapist like this shock, petrified shock. And I can't even tell you how long this took. Yet the first thought in my spirit form was, yay, I'm out of the body. I had been waiting to get out of that body. I was just so done with that body. So as soon as I was in that spirit body, very quickly after that, I left the room. So as I left the room, it happened so fast, Isha. I left the room, and I was kind of like out of earth very quickly, in the stratosphere, best word for it that I can share. And as soon as I was there, I was still in the spirit body. There was a ginormous, beautiful, radiant, pinkish golden, mighty archangel proceeded forward in this beautiful, glowing, iridescent gorgeousness, more of a female energy. And so angels, there is this incredible, ginormous aura about them that does feel like they have the wings. So with this one was Archangel Haniel, and she introduced herself. It was Archangel Haniel. And my spirit body was just like mesmerized, and I could feel the gorgeousness of this mighty archangel. And with her hand, she did this thing, and it was a sort of like a pink golden 3 rings of vapor mist, is the best word I can use, that was placed around me. I have no idea till this day what that was, other than when she did that, it came through me, through my spirit body and all around me. And instantly after that, there was to my right side, there was this beautiful, sort of like, almost like not a room, but like a doorway that was open, and I could see all of my loved ones who had crossed over. Like my grandmother was there. It was very loud, very lively, gorgeous, luminous, coloring, like radiant. I saw my grandmother, my grandfather, my cousins, my uncles, and they're all clapping, like really like a party, really a party. They're all waiting, and just beautiful. And I was like, oh my God, everybody's here, and they're looking at me, and all I can describe is the joy and the love that was being experienced. But I hadn't gone through this so-called, it wasn't a room, it was it was a place, but it was like a doorway, but not a traditional door either. No door wood or anything like that. It was like a doorway to go through. And Archangel Haniel looked at me and pointed telepathically this other way, which was to my left. It was like I was in a corridor. And I looked, this one was very clear. It was an oval shape. Best I can tell you, a portal. That's what that was. And inside of it was very dark blue, silver, platinum color that was moving very fast. And telepathically, she communicated, that's where I gotta go. I can't go there. And I had no idea. There was no choice in there, and there's no time and space in there. So everything's happening really fast, and that's where I went through. As my spirit body went through it, it was so fast, like as if you're going through time and space, like those Star Wars movie. You see they're going through dimensional time shifts, like it's so fast. It was so fast what I went through. And when I came this other side, lack of the better word that I can say, I entered a place that was completely quiet, but some sound was there, and it really resembled nebula, best I can say, like real nebula, completely cosmos, universe. And there's nebula with colors, this colors that I can't ever describe, colors I'd never seen before. And I wasn't even in spirit body. I wasn't that anymore. I was just consciousness with all the colors, all that was there. I was with all of them. And there was this very slow movement of just colors and this magnificent, glorious, like sound of some sound that I knew so deep, but I didn't know what that sound was. There was clearly a sound in there. And from there, I can't even tell you how this happened. Again, it was really fast. My consciousness was brought into this beginning of this place where it was almost like as if my consciousness had to enter a space, and it was a more of a structure, like a dome structure, gold, very, very large, incredible space around. And as my consciousness entered, there were 12 beings, 6 on each sides, that were translucent, darker blue, very tall beings that had this kind of white hue behind them, but the face couldn't be seen. There were no feet, very tall, about 18 to 20 feet tall, and they were waiting for me. And as I entered, my consciousness entered. Again, I'm in no longer a body. Everything is telepathically. And telepathically, it was said to me, they're the Arcturian Golden Council of 12. And there was a feeling in the consciousness, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home, like this almost like this screaming, like I'm finally home. I can't even explain how ecstatic this feeling was, but yet the feeling is telepathic because I'm not even a body, that my consciousness of the awareness of that was experiencing this. So with this incredible place, there was a space between the 12 beings, 6 on each side. It was a bit of a place. Within that, they brought some kind of screen, Isha, in the middle. As they brought some kind of screen, it was the fastest moving screen that showed my, not just this lifetime, it showed 844 lifetimes that I've had on Earth being a human incarnate. And they went through, it was very fast. And what was very important in that was I was being shown my life, for example, coming in as a Lemurian, and but it was much more detailed in that fast movement, what the role was, which all made sense to me later because I had no idea. Then Atlantis, then the life at the time of Yeshua walking on earth, and many different very historical moment, fast. It was being shown, and telepathically, I was seeing all of those many different forms I had, and many in being an indigenous, many lifetimes. So once that was shown, then they telepathically they said they're going to change my DNA, which I couldn't even understand what that meant or anything like that. In the center of the room, my my DNA, a holographic version of my human DNA was brought into the middle, and then there were these other again, it's so difficult to describe. There were these golden things that were brought in. So imagine the 12 are here, and they're bringing in certain things that I can't even translate what that is, and it's going into my DNA. The DNA is unlocking certain things, and then it's like elongating. Something was happening, and within that, telepathically, they said it will be now 8 strands, which again, it's happening so fast. There's no understanding what that is other than telepathically this is taking place, and certain things. And there was, I remember distinctly, there was this very specific purple violet color. It was a specific blue color. There was a pink color. There was a gold color and some emerald color. They all had to do with specific colors that something was happening to this DNA that was, it was like shorter, and then it got elongated in its twist. Lack of a better, I've never actually shared that description anywhere. And so within that, after all of that was shown, then they brought this awareness about my soul agreement in this incarnation. Why my father, my biological mother, my biological father, my brother, why we chose to be who we chose to be in this incarnation, and exactly the purpose. So much was so clear about why it had to be, why the incarnation had to be through the Middle East, why I had to go through the sexual abuse, what was the purpose of that. I mean, everything was, why all those like severe traumas in this incarnation, why I agreed to those, like everything was so crystal clear. That was telepathically communicated and shown to me, the agreements that were made to come in. So after that, I'm going to skip a bunch of other things in there. After that, this bright light started to come into the room, but it was coming from above, and it looked like my consciousness was moving towards it, while these Arcturian Golden Council of 12 were, it's almost like as if they were stepping a little bit more to create room for this bright, blinding, golden white light that was coming into the room and becoming more and more visible. And on my end, it was as if my consciousness was as if it was moving towards the light, and it was like blinding, gorgeous, beautiful, and all I can tell you, like, it can't ever be captured in this plane ever. The love that my consciousness was experiencing, like this love of home, reunion with home, the true essence of home, was becoming even more ecstatic. And as that was being experienced, as my consciousness was moving more towards the light, so everything else within my field of awareness was becoming more light, then a more of a shape of a figure began to formulate before me. And before I knew it, it was beloved Master Living Yeshua, the living Christ. I and I remember the shock and the joy and the ecstasy at the same time of my consciousness, like, and the love, the immediate luminous love that I was being nourished in, or being marinated or washed in. It's so hard to describe what that, because that wasn't a body, I was pure consciousness. And right away the voice began speaking, and it was the male figure voice, in his voice, and he said the words, he said, "You cannot be with us, my child. You must go back and take this." He went like this with his hand. And when he said this, it was a accumulation of a summary of lots of teachings over this 844 lives, and to be brought back. And he said, "You must go back and share this. It's not your time. You'll be with us soon. You'll return back to us." And a couple of other words, a couple of other things that I don't share publicly, what those few things were. And what was astonishing in that moment, or that second, whatever, however long that was auditory, that voice. My consciousness knew that voice. My consciousness knew the voice. The only thing in that moment, because there was no connection for me to earth at all. When I left the body, it was right away gone. But in that moment, I remembered in this incarnation, there were 4 times that voice had spoken to me, and I had no idea whose voice it was, and I was always longing to talk to that voice again, but I didn't know whose voice it was. And it was in that second that it was the recognition, wow, it was his voice that when this happened, or this happened, or this happened. So that's the one, that's who it was that was talking to me, that I never knew in this incarnation. And it was so beautiful, just extraordinarily. I can never capture it. And because this is 12 years later, I can actually talk about it, because the first several years, I couldn't even speak when I would mention this part, because I would fall apart, like just tears and tears. I couldn't even pass it. So it's taken me, like, I always get like a bit choky still, but I can at least speak. So as soon as he said that, then he said, "You must go back." And without any choice that I had, anything, I was sent back just as fast through these whatever dimensions these were. It was so fast through the light, like it was like as if I was being dropped from top of the universe to like bottom. It was so fast, and I plopped, like dropped into my body, and my body jerked like from the table. So the gentleman, his name was Terry, he screamed, I screamed, he screamed, I screamed, but my scream was like, oh, wow. His scream was like, ah, like, I killed you. It was a horrific moment.
Oh my
in
God.
that moment. And so I left, and I came in the car. What I was aware of when I was back in this body, but it wasn't me anymore. Something else came in. That wasn't, it was honey, but it wasn't honey. It was a different honey that had returned. That was the first thing when when the feet touched the ground, it was no longer. And it was this, all I can say, it was this whiff of fuel that was suddenly fueled inside, and that's what walked out of that door that night, and changes began very much the very next day. The first thing was, I went and saw my doctor, and within 3 days I was completely healed. There was no
Wow.
trace of illness. There was nothing. Everything had gone back, and my eyes were different, and I was aware. I'm not me, but I am me, but I'm not me. This is something else, and everything was so crystal clear, and within those 2-3 days after, right away the communication began about a mission. Remember, the mission has to be completed now. And so I'll pause here if you have any questions or anything, so then I can go further.
It's just incredible. The whole story is so incredible. And also, one of the things I have to say is, you and I both share a very strong Arcturian connection. So as you're telling this story to me, I'm seeing and feeling, probably a bit milder than what you experienced it, but I still feel the energy of everything that you're saying. I can see the DNA codings that they're changing, all the colors, everything. And it's just, for a lot of people, having just this story is so affirming, because as humanity's awakening, more and more people are realizing that there are these beings in these dimensional spaces. And for some of us, the mission is not just about this human experience, and that's what a big part of the story that I want to go into now is. You had your human experience, you understood all the experiences and why you had them, and the traumas and the abuse and all the family agreements. Then you had this experience where you died, you met your soul family, and now you've come back with a mission.
So it wasn't actually so family, because in my experience, when my consciousness interacted with the Arcturian Golden Council of 12, one of the very thing that was in the awareness communicated, shared, seen, revealed, that I was one of those elder ones that was there. So my consciousness was showing me as one that was in those bodies, while also simultaneously in this body that had just come out of. And another thing about that was that awareness, when I was a child, there was a very tall blue being with me all the time, and this is the one that I was kicked out of school with. My parents are like, it's her imagination. I would scare other kids and all of that. I had a lot of experiences, especially some of those, the plasma shifts that I was experiencing. I spoke about this a lot as a child. And of course, my parents couldn't experience it, but the blue one, so telepathically, they said, we were there with you. That was so all of this was explained to me, that here you're in both bodies right now. Here you are in this body while you're one of the older. So I was moved into the body of one of the elders that was in that meeting. You see what I mean? So it's so interesting. And that was very, very important in terms of understanding from the consciousness of mind becoming aware of itself. Because at that moment, I had no idea they were going to send me back. I didn't want to come back. I wanted nothing to do back with Earth, but whatever this thing that you have to go back and share was part of it. And this part of it was with this beloved master living Yeshua, the living Christ, and the Arcturians, whatever this was. And I had no idea what this assignment was, whatever that was, but there was an assignment that had to be completed and was sent back. So that's what I wanted to share, because then the journey began with this assignment.
That's a very important clarification. I mean, just to put it in some sort of definition for people who are watching this, some people describe what you're describing as soul aspects. Like you've got multiple different soul aspects in different dimensions. So when we talk about this expansion into your multidimensional awareness, this is what we're talking about, right? That you have you here on earth, and then the same you is experiencing simultaneously this Arcturian incarnation or these other multidimensional incarnations. So this experience for you was your awareness of that, right?
Correct. So my consciousness had become aware of itself, and it wasn't just Arcturian. This is the other one that I want to talk about, because this is why I was waiting for this show, because with you I can really go deeper into this area that I haven't had the opportunity on other channels to speak about. So the predominant energy or the frequency of my Arcturian self was revealed at that in that interaction as the elder, and for very specific reason, as the elder that's coming back to bring certain things because of the work that needed to be done on earth, which I'll get into. The other part of it with that, it was this magnetic, again, this is part of the things that I said that I'm skipping. There was this magnetic pooling of the awareness of my Syrian self, the Lyran self, the Andromedan self, the Antarian. So all of this also took place. So it wasn't just one expression. The expressions that had expressed itself from consciousness in these other planes of realities as well, for very specific reason. So that was gathered and then brought in. And so with Arcturian, the Golden Council of 12, which that through that connection of the awareness, they wanted to be the predominant one that will be leading the mission that I was sent back to deliver. You see what I mean? So that's why
and you'd still
like front.
And you'd still be drawing upon the wisdom of all the other soul aspects as well, though, right? Because they would show you the aspects that are most relevant to this mission. And I mean, there's probably hundreds, thousands of different soul incarnations, multidimensional aspects existing at once, right? But when you have this experience, they're showing you maybe just the handful of ones that are the most relevant with this Arcturian one leading or guiding this mission, right? Now I just know that people who are listening to this.
Yes.
Yeah, go.
I was going to say, because you just said something very important, because like, for example, you connecting with the Arcturians, you're connected with Syrians, you're connected with the other ones as well. There is a part that where the frequency that you're interacting with has to come to this plane of reality. And then once that has sort of fulfilled, then the other parts come in. So that's why there are many of us that, for example, first it was predominantly Arcturian, then it moved to Syrians, then Lyrans, then other ones that people haven't even heard of, like, for example, Avalians. Nobody knows about Avalians, or there are several other ones that I brought, describe them, who they are. They're not even been known, because that part wanted to also come in. So I just wanted to share that as well.
Yeah, it's what you're describing there, I'm, as you know, very familiar with, having experienced so many, even of some of the more unique ones that people don't speak about. I just, for the audience, I know that when people are watching this, then one of the big questions that's going to come for them is, so where is the higher self in all of that? I think that's a big confusion for some people. And let's just address that, if you want to explain the difference between these soul aspects that you're now connected with and the higher self frequency.
Absolutely. And thank you for that question, because it is very important, because many individuals are like, well, where am I from? And that because they have forgotten
Exactly. Yes.
through the veils, they have totally forgotten. And just as I had, however, in that experience of afterlife, the thing that was very clear, I am from source. I am from creator source. And from source decided to express myself in many different ways. So that's when it was brought into, for example, an Arcturian expression, Syrian expression, Lyran, Andromeda, and so many different planes. Also my angelic self, all of these different ones before, then also many different forms of this. So the origin is straight from source of creation, which I say it's the great I am, the great master self. From that, where it's not even, it's no form, it's no energy, it's none of it. It's just pure light. And from there, then it begins to go through its play of expression, many different ways.
Mm. I've often heard from those realms, it's light expressing as love through form. So pure light expressing, or is love through form, as that
Exactly. Because
frequency.
because what is experienced there in that consciousness, the consciousness remembers itself that it is love. And that's where I met living Yeshua. So he showed me what the Christus light is. And it's that Christus light, the light of creation. And that's what that was his journey on earth, to show that he says, I'm the way. It's not me, I am. It's the I am is the way. Through this light that is already within, you will find your way. So it's that whole pure Christ, and that's what was experienced in me, remembering itself that it is this. And these are the different expressions of it when the dimensional plane of consciousness sort of becomes a little bit more it's dense is not the correct word, because all dimensions are here happening simultaneously. When it becomes a little bit more saturated in hue is the best I can say, because that the one hue is one big bright pure white light. When it starts to come into different hue expressions in colors, it becomes almost like thicker. So then it begins to then take shape or form and what have you. And this is the most exquisite shape and form that expresses itself in this way. All these dimensional planets are not this dense put together, and it's incredible. So it's the remembrance of that, and that's when we're sent back. We have remembered. We don't need to go through realization, because we remembered, and that's why we're sent back to then deliver the remembrance.
Wow. So after you had this experience, you said that some of the changes started happening within just 2-3 days of you coming back. And you noticed that it was you, but not you, because you had a greater awareness, or a greater, as you said, inner standing of all of this. And so the, for lack of a better word, the ego expression that existed prior to that suddenly has this expansion. And I guess the next curiosity is, well, what does that mean for the 3D you, the version of you that is the wife and the mom and the sister and all the things? What does that actually mean, and how did that start to impact your everyday life?
So few things took place after that, Isha. On a practical note, I would say this: the very thing is, there was the awareness that this is no longer that honey. It was almost the death of that honey. That other honey did play out and die. This other honey came in as a walk-in, for some call it walk-in, but it was still, a lot of that was. The memories were there, but it was a different one came in. So that created right away a change, because first of all, that honey that came in wasn't afraid, was way more bold, like even crazier, more bold. And it came in with certain on a physical level, that these eyes were different. The eyes were seeing differently. So what I would share with you, for example, I was able to right away see through people's bodies, like an X-ray. That was really crazy. I could literally see into like the person's liver. I could see their gallbladder. I could see their lung. I could like literally see, and that took a long time to adjust. Like the eyes, like I'm seeing into people's bodies. Like this is really wacky, but it was awesome. The other part was I was seeing these the very specific geometric patterns in people. So I'm talking to them like I'm talking to you, but I'm seeing geometric pattern before me, in front of me, into the body and behind them. So that was also it was almost like a psychosis, for lack of a better word, but yet it was the most natural state that I was experiencing. I was aware this is really wild, yet my human self in that body was like, yeah, this is very natural. It wasn't like, odd. So some of those things were very, very interesting. And auditory, I always had the auditory gift, and I was always a seer. This became even more, what everything became even more heightened from that. So one of the very strange things was my body, the physical body, started having like, okay, like what you see in the sky as a universe, like let's say cosmos, all these stars in it. So I started seeing stars in my body, and the stars were like shooting light to each other. That was so freaking uncomfortable. It was like this electric burning sensation in my body each time the starlights would shoot up light to each other through the body. Like I felt like I was just plugged into some crazy electricity all the time, and that's what was making me really uncomfortable in terms of discomfort. And at one point, I found that if I put my hands and feet in some kind of stream water, it will cool it down. And that worked for a while, did very well, because it took a while for my body adjust to these new things in it. And one of the other things that began happening was one of the very quickly things, everything started to synchronize. So of course, at this point, my former spouse, that I have to say, he was with Department of Defense. He was top secret, top intelligence, all of that. So this was now like I was having a whole lot of other experiences on top of this, including like plasma ships coming over the house, and blue being coming into our house, blue beings being shown in our house, and my younger son at that time was having all kinds of experiences. So everything started also happening along the way, and that was very, very uncomfortable. And I kept saying, I have to go on this assignment. They're like, where? I was like, I gotta go on an assignment. I gotta do this thing on the land. They're like, what, where? And I couldn't explain it. And the Arcturians began speaking, saying, you have to, there are 40 locations, you have to go, you gotta deliver this. And I was asking them, what am I supposed to deliver? They said, you get there, we'll tell you. And I had no idea what this was, yet I knew I had to go. So that's what really began the change of, here I was, wife, mother, had a very successful business, shut everything down, and then began the journey. And this happened right before I turned 40. So this is where you and I also, something, I was guided to Dolores Cannon. I'd never heard of Dolores Cannon, had no clue who she was. In between this, I was told I have to go to Arkansas and meet Dolores Cannon. I'm like, who on earth is Dolores Cannon? And so I ended up going there right before my 40th birthday. I was turning my 40th birthday was with Dolores Cannon, and I was supposed to learn QHHT. Like, what is that? So that was one of the first things that happened when I was sent there. And so I met all these other people that are like Arcturian Syrians. Like, it's like, wow. And so the changes began. And the morning of my 40th birthday, I knew, okay, here comes, yeah, I have to separate from my husband. And I was told I have to dematerialize. That was a very difficult one, because that means the house had to go. I had a marriage that everybody wanted, really wonderful husband, children, everything, like everything had to go. And that was very difficult, Isha. Very, very difficult. So I went through, and they were um, generous in being not abrupt so quickly. So it took stages with that for me to get on the road. And the hardest one was then knowing I had to be separated from my children. I was very angry about that. I was very upset about that. And I had a kind of like a disappointment fight about that too. And I was like, I don't understand. I'm responding to everything. I'm back. I'm going to do everything you said, but why my children? This is wrong. Like, no, like I don't want to do this. And they said, you'll know. And it was my oldest son at that time. He was really young. So that was like, he was like 10 years old at that time. Yeah. And it was a weekend. I was just hiding in a closet, just crying my heart out, because I'd started a separation, I'd done everything else, and I had to get on the road, and I just couldn't find the courage. My mom and my brother were already mad at me. I'd lost a lot of friends already, because people had already begun judging. Like, they didn't know what had happened. Suddenly, I was very different, and I couldn't talk to anybody. I was having so many interactions, codings, the amount of codings and things I was seeing, and like, it was just a madhouse. And I remember that particular day, my oldest son came and he looked at me and he said, Mom, why are you so sad? I said, I always knew I'm part of something big on earth. I know I have an important purpose and I experienced this, but I just don't have the courage. I can't do it. I can't leave you guys. I can't. I just can't. I can't separate from you. And with his incredible big eyes, he looked at me dead in my eyes, Isha, that day. And he said, Mom, if God spoke to you, you have to answer. I can take care of my little brother. You have to go. And it was like as if something summoned through him to speak to me. And I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for that what he said to me that day. And I knew what was being said to me that day. So I found the courage to go on the first one without knowing. And my very, very first one was Sedona. Going to Sedona, I had no idea what. I didn't know what to do. I had to get on the plane. I didn't even know where the money was coming. So it was just beginning, and the Arcturians were coming in. And before this, I was still facilitating sessions. And in the sessions, things started going crazy in the sessions. I was having all kinds of really wild experiences showing up, popping up. It was just my sessions, private session had gone off the roof, and because they were helping. And so I knew I was being preparing on the earth plane too. But the first experience of Sedona was a wild one. And I'm going to share this part because it's very, very fascinating. So I was told I had to, it was then Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, together with the Arcturians, on these assignments, and there was another team as well. And so the first assignment, Sedona, I found my courage to go. I got my backpack, get everything ready, hop on the plane, went. And I was like, okay, now what? They're like, we'll tell you. I'm like, they're like, you have to go find these two rivers. I'm like, okay, find them. We'll show you everything. And so that's how the journey began. It was always this little snippet, and I have no freaking idea what I'm supposed to do other than find two rivers. Okay, there are a lot of freaking rivers. They're rich rivers, you know. So,
Wow. Wow.
yeah.
It's such a big journey. And for you, I mean, I know I'm going to give a bit of a spoiler here. I know now that your relationship with your children is fine. It's great. So I know that, after that moment, things have come back full circle, and I'm sure there's a big journey in that as well. But I can't even imagine what it would have been like for you in that moment to not know if you would ever see your children again, whether that was a permanent thing, whether you'd have to go on the road and just that's it, you never talk to them again, or whether you go for a week and come back. At that point, you would have had no idea, right?
I, I, I I took that because in that moment when he spoke to me, I knew Source spoke through him to me to give me that fuel, that gave that strength to go. And I went, I started going 1 week, coming back, 2 weeks, coming back, 3 weeks. So I was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth all the time. It wasn't like completely gone, but it was very difficult. And I learned later it was the biggest initiation because it was a female and a mother, and it was so important. A mother energy had to be on the road in these places that I went that are not popular places. There are a few popular places, but a lot of places, what I ended up having to do on the land, I had to clear up a lot of very, very dark energies, and it needed a mother. A mother could bring this, and it needed to bring a certain frequency. It needed to be brought, this divine mother. In the crystal light had to come in, and there was so much instruction with how this would be coming in through the voice, how that Christ light through its diamond frequency would come in. They had to prepare my body for 21 days to go into the still. I mean, there's so much took place before this, and like the wildness of on the road, these remote locations, and they would show me certain image. I had to go find, Lord and behold, like when I came to Perth, when I met you, but before that planetary work that was done in Perth was incredible because they would show me very specific image. I had to go find that place wherever it was on Earth, and then I had to bring this thing that they literally my vessel being used to be brought into that place, so change the energy of it so that this Christ light through the network of light can stream through the grids and be connected, this diamond patterns from place to place to place to place, so that this part was my part, and I was very specifically assigned to the third grid, which is the golden liquid light. Most people are assigned to the first and second grid. Mine was very specific with this one, and I mean, so much was revealed what needed to be done, and my feet not touching the ground, my feet had to be covered. There was Yeshua continuously side by side, and this is what's very hard with what's very difficult, because I had a lot of Christian haters threatening my life as well, because I had experienced meeting beloved master living Yeshua, but I was never asked to claim Christianity, anything like that. I was asked to literally just bring the love of the Christ light onto earth. So which that meant transmute this density into its light, and to meet very, very dark places. I had to go to some insane places to allow this to come in, but literally had to move through my body, and I would go through these voices that till this day, I can't even say what that was. And these movements to bring them in and connect them. And there were things that would appear literally on my lap, in my hands, out of nowhere, like a lot of alchemy of materialization for me to take to places. And So it was a very intense 5.5 years on the road. But Perth, which connects to you, and that trip that you and I met was very interesting because I had to go to this there was a lot of preparation. I had come back from Hawaii and Kauai, and I was being sent to Perth, and it was a part before that from Brazil. In that particular one, that showed me the specific place and the land that very dark people, beings that were in the earth were holding it hostage. So the water gods could not bring the rain there. It was a very large area. So it took a long time with Adrian. I was like, Adrian, we gotta go find this. I mean, it took all day to try to find this exact location that was shown. And when we went there, he's like, what am I supposed to do? I said, just don't look at me, don't judge me, don't talk to me, sit there and you're just a male energy there. Do not interrupt. And so I went through whatever, what I needed to do, my body needed to do, and they worked through me. This place had not had rain from what I understood, in 3 years. And there was a lightning right after that. And 3 months later, Adrian showed me the whole area of the lake that had filled up with water. There was part that it was part of that energy had to be pardoned into the light by this crystal slide. That's how powerful this crystal slide is. It is very real, and it is to be brought in all areas, in all places. It wasn't for me. I was not the one assigned to go bury crystal. That wasn't my assignment. Mine was as a living crystalline diamond presence to allow this liquid light to be anchored on earth. And it was through my feet touching the earth and the sounds coming in. So it was a lot of sound, and it was a lot of the languages of the different frequencies coming in. And it was exhausting 5.5 years, fully dedicated. And along the way, Isha, I lost obviously many friends that were so-called friends, family, a lot of judgment, and we had a very, very difficult time. And yet as a family with my former spouse, and the biggest thing is going through separation, divorce, I had to walk away with nothing, absolutely nothing. And this
Why
was,
was that part important? Because in a normal separation, everything's kind of 50-50, and yet you've received the guidance, just let it all go, let it all go.
and
And
I
so you've
asked
walked away with none of that.
nothing. I know I went from, and this is a few times I've gone from a lot of wealth to zero, like zero. And I asked, from frustration, I was like, I don't understand. Like, cause like, traveling with airline ticket, I was like, how is this like,
Mm.
two things. I'm going to answer you two things. One is, I asked, how am I supposed to do this? They said, we'll take care of everything. And that was part of my initiation. And Lord and behold, I can't even tell you how money showed up out of nowhere, like to fulfill, to a point where I'm in Brazil at the airline, flying back to US, and out of nowhere the lady says, oh, we see you back on January whatever you for your return flight. I never purchased return flight. There was a flight there. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of stories when they said we'll take care of, they really take care of. It was a lot of, I saw alchemy in action. The other part, to answer you, I said, I don't understand why everything is gotta, I don't get it. This is like, it's brutal. What the hell?
Yeah.
Like, really angry at it too. And with the most love that I've ever heard the voice, Yeshua said to me, he said, you have to let go of everything so you remember that you are everything. And that's what that was.
Wow.
And that I am. And I remembered my I am, because then the I am, there's one thing when you experience it on the other side, Aisha, there's another thing to then be in this human form and deliver it from the I am, because very easily we forget, because everything else keeps coming. So I was in a suitcase and a half for 5 years on the road, 5.5 years. But before all of this, before I even died, 2 years earlier, I kept seeing an image in my meditation every single day. No day was skipped that there is a male, there's a man that I'm going to be walking with, that we're going to deliver this call. And it is to bring this specific frequency on the planet. And I was like so ashamed, embarrassed. I felt like awful because I'm a very devoted wife, married with my husband. I don't understand why I keep seeing this man, and I'm going on stage and there's this thing I'm doing with my hand. What the hell is this? I keep seeing this image. So of course, when that's what was explained to me. And then my partner will be coming, we will deliver this together, because it has to come with both of us. First is this, and then the rest is this next phase. So then that also took
And
place.
you waited a number of years for that, right? I mean, that was quite a few years in the future that happened.
Exactly, because there were a couple of potentials that came but could not deliver, because the frequency of the Christ light was the predominant one that had to be carried in the heart of this particular male figure that was so clean and pure to be able to carry this Christ light, so then we can deliver the mission together. And so that's what came next after that.
Wow. Just a couple of things to really, I guess, highlight in your story. Not everybody listens to that level of surrender that you have. If I'd say 99+% of the people would just not be able to release everything, including their marriage, their money, their home, even their children, to go and do this work that you've been guided to do. And what happens if you don't take on the mission? Can you say no?
So I met a couple of people. I met a gentleman that died the same day as me, same January 8, 2012. He chose not to respond. So he's having a different experience than I am. And of course, at the end of it, your human will do that. But this is my last human incarnation. So there was no choice. It had to be done. And that it was part of the initiation of many, many, many initiation phases, so that the book of Revelation within me in this incarnation can open up, so that I can access that. This is not Akasha, it is the inner book of Revelation that each of us has. So then it can be revealed to you, so that you can, as a divine sovereign being, can truly claim your divinity that is within this form, that this form is here to bring that through. And I feel individuals who choose not to, it's respectful as well, because it really takes a lot of courage. And there's still pain in my cells from the amount that's been endured after that has not spoken about. Yet everything has to be pardoned into light. Like I'm so close with my former spouse. He's one of my best friends. We were married 21 years to best friend. He's so close with Michael. As a family, our whole family unit had to be, we have all the Christmas, holidays, birthdays together, because this is very important. So we are living that Christus light in action in here. But this does not mean others can necessarily fully demonstrate that, do that, because it takes a lot of courage to say yes, to give it all up, and then live it, not preach it, not teach it, actually live it. That means you will be facing, you thought trauma before was difficult, then you're really going to be facing it in this plane. And from the awareness, you have to push yourself in further remembering that I'm to bring the love into this continuously, and you have a shit fit with yourself. Believe me, I've gone through my shit fits, Isha, like difficult thing, and then come back, okay, love has to be brought in. I like, there's no other option. There is no other option.
In
So
some ways, would you say that with the awareness, in some ways, it's almost more difficult because
yeah,
there is that ignorance is bliss, right? Like, yes, if you've experienced traumas and things, if you don't know that magnitude of that love or that experience of how good things can be, there's almost like a ignorant acceptance of what is. And then when you go there and you go, but hang on, things can be so different, things can be so better. And then the reality of just how dense this incarnation is, it almost hits you more, right?
it absolutely does, Isha. And you know this because when you're then from the awareness, you want to say, flower, you walk, but you can't, because it's exactly that density that too wants to be lifted. And then
Mm.
you're put in that position so that it can be lifted. And you will face many dense dark, because it is not outside of you, it is also part of you, from many interactions of many planes of consciousness, that to another this is now surfaced, so that you can also bring the light to it, the light of nowhere else but other than from within. That crystal's light is here to radiate, and it frees yourself from your past, from your future, and your timeline changes through the interaction with others. And that's how it changes it, so it becomes simplified. It no longer becomes all those years of light language transmissions activation. It becomes very basic, here now, love, right here. That's it. In your walk, at the cashiers, going buy groceries, it becomes really simplified. Especially like during this time, like I was on the airplane yesterday, before yesterday, I started hearing, oh, masks are optional. You can start to see people starting to wear masks and all of that, bringing love, because you see visibly in front of you, you can see clearly, and you can't judge it at all, because that is a timeline that must also play out. It's so interesting what happens, and you get to witness so many things. And it is truly that merciful flame that is where the grace is here to be the beholder. And the walk of grace, there's one thing to think of it, there's another one, it's a kick-ass to walk it. And believe me, Isha, I fall flat sometimes as well, because then I'm given another opportunity, and then some days I bring more of that, then that's pardoned, and then I fall again. It's no joke. But it is a walk of mastery, the mastery of the crystal light from the great I am that already is being brought here. And my last 2 months has certainly been extremely challenging, and being very aware, like there's this love story of my I am, of this Christ light that's so gorgeous, it's so glorious, so gracious, and here's my human self experiencing such density, and both want to live simultaneously with an awareness of each other, so there's this other thing happening, and it's so beautiful and yet very tough at the same time.
I think you've encompassed all the many facets of the journey so beautifully. And it is important to speak into the parts where we fall. I too have experienced many falling downs and wondering, why did I do this? Why did I choose this? Can I give up? Can I go back? I wish I could just have a normal human life. Like, all of those desires sometimes come in when you look at the world around you and you go, you almost think you're mad for signing up to this, right? But this is it. This is the mission, and it's just so beautiful to hear your journey of how you've walked that. Is there anything else that your heart really desires to share to really get this story out in its fullness today?
Thank you for that question, Isha. The most important thing I like to share is whether you're in this form by choice or it's a walk-in, it doesn't matter. Here you are. And you are here right now because your great grandmaster self, that great I am, from its source of origin, as it trickled down even to galactics, intergalactics, star seeds, all of these different ones, angelic realm, all of that wants to be interacted through this holy garment. This is the most exquisite gift. And this is the key to all of it. It has to be loved. This garment you're in must be so loved by you. And that's the time that has come for us to draw that intention from all the outside to really love and cherish and value and appreciate this garment. Be so kind and gentle and loving to it, so that the fullness of that pure crystalline diamond light can just move through it without you blocking it, because the work is not outside. I went through physical planetary work for years to then all of that happened, then diamond body activation, all of that to then arrive to a point 12 years later that, wow, all of that has come to this, that this is the real key, where the love is being allowed within ourselves truly, where we can experience it. Because when we experience it, we're bringing it to this third dimensional reality, and we're impacting everything and everyone around us. And that affects the collective, not going out there try to affect the collective energy. You affect this collective by loving it.
It's so beautiful. For the people out there who have the desire to awaken and perhaps are struggling or don't know what to do, or they're trying but keep getting caught up again in the densities and the dramas, what guidance could you share with them?
That it's okay.
Mhm.
It's okay. You will get discouraged, and that's okay. You will have some harder times, that's okay. And you have some fabulous times, that's okay. Please eat the ice cream that you want, enjoy it, and go hang out with the friends that you want, enjoy it. Let your joy be higher than anything else. That will open up the doors to more ease as you go through this. You don't need to awaken anything right away. It will happen in our perfect timing. But just do your best to follow the joy, the simple joys, even if that means be on a swing. Give yourself permission, because that is very important. That will lift everything, because when your vibration is lifted, you will have access to all answers that already exist, and that's how you can access it, and you can bring it to this plane, and it will make it much easier for you.
That's so beautiful. Thank you, Reverend Honi Borden, for being here with us today. Every conversation with you is always so delightful. And I think you've shared a lot of wisdom. And I know that your journey, your story is going to go out there and just touch the hearts and inspire so many others. So I really appreciate you being here with us today.
Thank you so much, Isha. This meant so much to me. I really value and appreciate your time, your energy, your beautiful audience, and just the gift of being able to finally have this time where the afterwards was able to be shared. And there was a lot of things around it, and I'm just so thankful that this part was shared. And special thank you to anyone that chose to say yes, like
Mm.
you. I remember you would, at the time we met, you were with the students, you were a teacher. It was
Mhm.
so wonderful, and what a journey to say yes to and just go through, gosh, all of that, and how you're impacting so many lives. So thank you so much for that, and thank you for allowing this podcast, because this is a together work, and each time we allow it within ourselves, we connect, and more of this beautiful essence is able to easily spread, as not for any other purpose other than it just wants to be here.
Mm.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for tuning in to another episode of First Contact.
Thank you so much.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to First Contact. I'm your host Isha Patel, and I'm so excited to have this conversation about open contact with extraterrestrial beings. Come join me in the Facebook community where you can continue the discussion, or keep listening for another episode of First Contact.